Hello everybody, and welcome to Steve Couper's podcast for aspiring real estate investors. In every episode, we endeavor to bring to you a subject matter expert or someone who's got some tips and information he's willing to share. Today, I have the esteemed pleasure of meeting with someone who's now been in the industry for what, 4 or 5 years now. He's got prior to this 20 years in the as a healthcare nurse, so he brings tremendous caring and sharing and wanting to actually serve people. And I'm looking forward today to being able to talk with Hermel Godbout and talk about the lessons learned in real estate and how we can best serve our clients. What have you got to say today, Hermel? Welcome.
Thank you, Steve, for having me. Yes, we tend to learn as we go, and also pay for a lot of the education or the space between our ears. Like a popular saying, like "Hey, can I pick your brain?" has gotten to an area where I'm like, well, it's what I got there in my brain was expensive to get there. So I just don't let people pick away. You have to book an appointment. You have to book an appointment and then see if I can share enough of my time to bring value. But I'm happy to be here and bring value to the community of listeners that you have. And again, this is I think our second meeting, so it's always a pleasure to have a discussion with you.
For sure, it's a real pleasure talking with you, Hermel. It's one of the things that I love about this venue is the opportunity to actually get to know one another. When we're talking real estate investing, there's not somebody. It's not with the neighbors I've got around the corner or the people I go to work with. It's the people across the country, or for that matter, across the continent. As we are talking to fellow investors, trying to monitor what's going on in their markets, how they're approaching the various strategies that they're employing, and what lessons they've learned through the course um, of trial and error, almost in order to actually bring value to others. And while I don't want to give away any trade secrets, I do appreciate that you're willing to spend time talking with me today. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into the real estate investing and transitioned from nursing into this as a full time. Tell me a bit about your story, Mel.
Yeah, so our real estate story started, I think, during the start of the COVID period, where we were working at the hospital, both my wife and I, critical care nurses from inception. So I was born in nursing in the ICU. So I always did critical care. I don't know how to do anything else in nursing. And then my wife did a bit of cardiology, and then drifted to critical care as well. And during the COVID times, we got a big fat reality check, basically. We were both working under isolation, and we were basically holding people's hands as they were saying their final goodbyes to their family on Zoom call over a tablet, their family being away because they weren't allowed to enter. And my reality check when we were having a discussion, and we're all like, we're permitted to be out and about because we're the critical personnel or the essential personnel. But as we were having a discussion, my wife and I, one evening, we're like, this could be us next week. And we have a young daughter, we have two sons, and I figured this is not how I want to go, selling my time away to an employer, that at the time we didn't feel valued much at our jobs. And so we decided that, maybe it's time to explore what else is out there. We had a friend in our environment that had posted about, real estate investment opportunities, private lending opportunities, registered fund investment opportunities. If you deemed yourself on title, you could lend your registered funds. And we were looking at our retirement pension plans and all stuff, and they kind of stagnated for a while, and we're like, I don't think we can retire comfortably. And even our government had pushed back the retirement age from 55 to 65 without penalty. So if I had retired at 55, I would lose like 50% of my pension. And I'm like, well, there's no longer terms I can agree with. So that added to the fact that one of our coworkers in the critical care had bought an old house. They had flipped it, and after flipping it, they had rented it out. And they were like, "Well, we just hired a property manager, and they're doing all the work for us after the renovation. Super easy, no problems." So I'm like, "Wow, those guys can do it." And with all these things, maybe we start shopping. So conditions or conditions to isolation and secluding yourself with the COVID-19 kind of lightened up a little bit, and we were allowed to go visit houses, permitting conditions. You had masks and you had vaccines and all that. So we bought our first duplex. I think we made the first offer we made, we got it. We got our first side-by-side duplex in an area downtown Moncton that is considered, kind of a fancy neighborhood because there's a lake close by. It's the only lake downtown Moncton, and it's a very manicured neighborhood, landscaping and whatnot. So we bought that or got the offer in first go, and after we settled in, we got some legacy tenants. Tenanted our first. Uh, Solo, like managing it ourselves, tenanting our first set of tenants. We got the worst tenant scenario you can imagine. We did all the wrong things. But we learned everything about bad tenants in one go. And when I'm saying everything, I'm not exaggerating by a long shot. This is, if you had something to learn about a bad tenant, it was all condensed under one go. And we managed to have that tenant evicted, reclaim our property, renovate it post, them moving out. And after that, we went to our realtor and we're like, okay, get us one more. And she's like, you guys went through the ringer for that tenant and you still want to go at it. I guess you're here to stay. I'm like, oh yeah, we're a permanent fixture. So we ended up educating ourselves from that point on because we didn't want to repeat those same mistakes. And there was the scalability thing. We're like, well, we depleted all of our savings buying this for saying, and how do we keep going when our pockets are, not empty, but we're like, well, we don't have enough money to do this 12 more times. So we wanted to know how to scale. So we learned, we joined some mentorship groups. We learned a whole bunch about joint venture opportunities, and we got three more duplexes under contract. Ended up closing two of those three. One we lost because the JV backed out. And again, we were like, okay, this is a lot of work for two small properties, So we're like at six doors at that point, and we're like, wow, that's a lot of work for six properties. Like, when is it too early to go to like multifamily? And inside of one of our mentorship groups, we had a breakout session. We were the young blood in the room, so everybody didn't know us. They wanted us to introduce ourselves. And when we introduced our market, and we asked the question, "Hey, do you guys have an idea? Like, what's the rites of passage to get into multifamily?" And one of my current partners was sitting on that meeting, Benoit Sorel, and he had bought a few multifamily already in Vancouver. And he was like, well, if the people you're doing it with can give you a bit of, guidance, and the people that you're doing it with know how to do it right, there's no too early, like if someone's there to show you, basically. So that kind of intrigued me, and I followed up that comment with, hey, we should book a meeting. And after booking several meetings with him, we decided that for him, continuing to buy multifamily in Vancouver was a bit unaffordable,
Yeah.
and good opportunities were hard to find. And he wanted to get into the market in the Maritimes, but he really didn't have a leg in. And then our conversation stemmed a little bit of hope in his heart that maybe this is how we get in. So we agreed to work together, and I think we went shopping at that point for multifamily. There was a lot of multifamily out there. We underwrote, and I'm not kidding, we underwrote at least 40 different opportunities, made offers on at least a dozen. We spun our wheels, built our team for about 6 months, and it seems like we were getting nowhere. But in November 21, we got our first multifamily offer in that was accepted and under contract. And that deal closed. So it was 40 units, and we closed that in March 22. So from November to March, we had a 4-month gap, and that started our multifamily journey.
Started off with 40 doors. Well
Yeah.
done, Hermel.
Yeah.
And is that in Moncton?
The 40 doors are a little town northeastern New Brunswick. It's a beach town. Bathurst, New Brunswick is where
Bathurst.
yeah,
I've
that's
been to
where we stay.
Bathurst. I've been to Moncton. I love it out there. It's beautiful. But
Yeah.
I think you get far more severe seasons out there than I'm used to here in BC.
Oh yeah, we got the full four here. It's
Full
not like
force,
half a winter and a light spring. It's heavy on all four seasons.
the full force of four seasons. I
Yeah.
love it. So so you started off with 40 doors in your first multi.
Yeah.
How long before you bought your second?
So that was we had an offer on I think before closing that one.
Mm.
So before closing in March 22, we had an offer on a 16 unit in Sackville, New Brunswick, and that closed in July 22. And then before that closed, we had an offer on an 82 unit in Sackville, New Brunswick that we closed in December 22.
Wow.
Then we had an offer on a 32 unit in Sackville, New Brunswick in March 23 that closed in July 23. And then a 70 unit simultaneously that we were working on in Sackville, New Brunswick again. That yielded another 50 unit trailer park, and that closed in December 23. So in short order, we went from not many doors to a whole bunch. So over 200 doors in Sackville and about 57 doors now in Bathurst. My wife and I ventured separately from the Sunset Group and did some purchasing in Alberta just recently last summer. So we have 70 doors out there. And then with the Sunset Group, we also bought a student housing project in downtown Halifax on South Street next to Dell University. So 31 units just last summer. So last June we had three big projects close simultaneously before the June 25th deadline. So
That's amazing, Hermel. Just amazing. Such exponential growth.
yeah,
And
we hit the let's go button and we haven't looked back.
so, I mean, you had the right time in the market to actually get in. You entered at exactly the right time, I think, from for what you did. Do you think it'd be possible for somebody else to replicate that in today's market?
I mean, today, see, a lot of the opportunities we landed on in Sackville, say, they were just things that landed on our lap because people knew we were looking to buy, right? So this was off-market opportunities. Um, I wouldn't say it would be impossible, but you know, it does take a bit of effort, and you need to be out there. So the lesson to us was that these deals came to us because we were looking. Like we were looking and people knew that we were looking and it's like word of mouth and you know like I received calls out of the blue. Hey, Hermel, I'm Joe, whatever, and I got this many units. Are you interested? Are you still buying? Let's set up a meeting. These are motivated sellers that were looking for someone to liquidate to. Um, so yeah, so you had to be at the market at the right time in the right spot. So there's like that little 16 unit that started us in Sackville yielded, another 150 plus, and then a trailer park. And then, we have commercial buildings here now. And then we're vertically integrating. We have a snow op, we have lawn care, so all these side businesses that we were able to create just because we have enough density to support that. So it was doable, and I don't think it's impossible. You just got to be like again at the right place at the right time and look like you're interested in buying and talk to people. And I've actually cold called a few owners that I knew had a lot of inventory, and I'm like, hey, we're buying, by the way. If you're interested in having a conversation, here's our phone number. And the advantage of and that's one the piping order was if you do business with us, we make an offer, we close. Like we're closers. We don't it might take longer because, sometimes conditions, no, in multifamily, nothing ever closes on time. That's one thing I can definitely assure you. Nothing closes on time. It's always too later, later, later. Um, but we get there.
Yeah.
And that's like one staple we have in our group. It's like we close on time.
So if I were to just think back over what you said in the last 5 minutes here, you started off um, in this multifamily space by educating yourself. You went and joined some groups to say, I need to learn more about this. You, in the course of that, met somebody with deep pockets that wanted to invest with you. You then got out there and were looking, and I'm assuming by looking, you got out there, you were doing walkthroughs of various buildings and connecting with people in the industry. And so you're establishing what I would call deal flow with that, where people are aware, hey, this person's motivated, he's funded, and he's a closer. So you were able to, through the course of following that process, establish not only the resources behind you, but the deals ahead of you. So you're able to connect the dots, and that's kind of the magic that I think is everybody needs to learn from.
Hmm. Definitely. We also when we started, we were also looking to see how we could bring, the investor component in, in the sense where how can we make our investment opportunities stand out a little bit? How can we make them a little less risky for investors, because like it's one thing to have deals funded from like one super wealthy person, or bring in a few dozen, or a half a dozen, or depending on the size of the deal, of people that are accredited, or that have the corporations, or that have the exemptions, or that are qualifying investors for us to go in and do business together, either under an LPGP structure. And that's how we really got going, is that we structured our first LPGP. We hired a securities lawyer to give us advice on how to structure our term sheets and our LP agreements, and then one of my partners that joined the team, being a lawyer and being a wealth management lawyer at that, devised a few tax optimizing strategies on the LPGP to make it even more tax efficient. And so we were able to structure those LPGP structures that were tax efficient, that were risk reduced for investors, and we brought them on to these deals that had a turnover of like a 2-year term before you recover your capital. So return of capital was really quick, and then the returns started after that return of capital. So the return on capital started 2 years after, and and our investors got really, like, there was no one else doing the 2-year turnarounds on these big deals at the time. And we got in as soon as MLI Select hit the shelves. We were one of the first ones to sign up for it, and we've had 19 CMH CMLI Select applications as a group together so far, and all of which went to the 100 points product. So yeah, we find the best financing, find the best structure, tax optimize it, and then uh, continue filling your brain with ways to do it and optimize it further, and then go to market and get and try to get investors, and returning investors is what we're getting now. Like with a few iterations, people are coming back for more because they're happy with what we've been able to put out. So.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And this is a good example of how you've scaled. You know, you started off with duplexes, and you find yourself now with the opportunity. You're now able to offer financing opportunities that work for a broader audience of potential investors. And the way that GPLP structure has transformed your business, I think, is really critical, right? Because we all start out with start out small. It's possibly going to be a joint venture you have with one other couple or something, and then eventually you find yourself saying that's not going to be enough. So if you're buying 40 doors, there's going to be a need to actually have a larger pool of people potentially that are investing with you, et cetera. So yeah, very well done, very well done. So this is interesting. So you've managed to scale your business. You've got properties in multiple different provinces. You've found offshoots to your business to support it with the snow removal and other things. What's next for Mel?
I mean, I think now the Sunset Group has reached a density where like we needed to this year after we closed the Halifax deal, we needed to take a breath and then restructure internally because there's the fact of scaling is one thing, but when you scale on the scale that we have so rapidly, you need to let your systems catch up. Otherwise, we're all working 45, 50, 60 hours a week and paying the bills and accounting and there's the compliance things with the compliance component with the investors, the compliance components with all of our lenders. All of these things have to be handled, right? And so it was shortly discovered that we needed to hire people, like hire bookkeepers internally. We have our own internal accountant. We have an internal controller. So these were all growing pains that we needed to go through. And the hiring process is not as linear as one would think. We try one, fire one. Like it's hire fast, fire faster. That mentality. If you notice, the person that you hired doesn't fit the need. It's not necessarily, you're hopefully hiring a competent employee in that field. And if you didn't, you should let them go quicker than it takes then for them to sink your operation down and actually add to your plate rather than to remove. So after hiring 6 or 7 different people in all these roles, we're now I think running optimally. We've hired someone to do our marketing part-time as well, our marketing campaigns. And not that we're not busy enough. We decided to launch our own coaching program, the Sunset Investments Multifamily Academy. So we teach people to do what we do on top of it all, so at that higher level, and but now that things are kind of falling into place, we've taken a breath. We're finishing that Halifax project now. The optimization period is almost complete. We're almost done raising capital on that one. I think once that's settled down, we're gonna regroup and say, where do we go from now? We started a development talk here in Sackville. There's a high need for rental units here in Sackville again, in a university town. The demand is very high for non-university people because all of the available units tend to go to the university crowd. So we're looking to see where we can fit the need. We've acquired quite a bit of vacant land in the process of buying properties out here. So we're just looking now at how to basically plan for construction. But we always like to prioritize existing asset over creating new asset. It's a little less risky. And CMHC have just changed the rules last week or in the last couple of weeks on the development side of things, making things a little tougher, but a little less risky for banks and for CMHC itself moving forward. They've de-risked their position considerably with the changes they've made. So it falls on our backs now to be a little more liquid and have a little more to guarantee on these deals rather than the previous scenarios. So we're trying to strategize around the new changes. But again, if an opportunity came my way, like, hey, there's 150 doors here. Are you guys interested in buying? If the price is right, we're always interested. So let's go shopping. All right.
Hermel, it sounds like you've gone from one ICU and created another one.
Well, at least no one dies I mean, knock on wood, it's everybody dies at one point or another, but on a regular basis, working in the ICU, you're exposed to real emergencies. Like, and when I say urgent, or stat, when I worked in the ICU, it meant move or someone passes, right? So here when I say urgent, I mean it's like, hey, pay this bill or we get a call. or urgent, there's a leak. Let's call a roofer, or a plumber, so the level of urgency is not the same. Right? No one is at risk
Morbid risk.
of yes, it's exactly morbid risk of passing if you don't move fast enough.
Oh,
Um,
I have a question about markets now. You've expanded, starting off initially relatively close to home, and now you're in other provinces. Do you find it easier or what's your preference? Do you want to have the property you can drive to every time something goes wrong, or would you rather have the one that's so far away that somebody else is going to need to deal with it and you just need to be told about it?
Well, that's the one thing that we've gained with experience as well is that our local assets, we've decided to manage them ourselves in the sense where my wife and I launched Ascent Property Management in September 2023. So we've hit our 1 year anniversary just last September here in 24.
Congratulations, happy anniversary.
Thank you, thank you. And we so we know how to manage student rentals. We know how to manage senior oriented rentals, normal rentals. We know like so we're doing it. We're hands on, right? Um, Added to that, if you're buying away and you're not managing, then you can bring to the management team that you've hired from afar a lot of insights on how you do things. And th- when you own the buildings that you're managing, your interests are in line. Like the interests are that these buildings are profitable, that the vacancies should be zero at all times, that the turnaround time for renovations, repairs and maintenance, all these things have to be timely. No time wasting. Um, we get notifications 3 months ahead of time, as a rule set for like vacancies incoming, stuff like that. So when we hire out new property managers, we're a lot more when they sit on an interview with us, it falls very short that they're like, "Do you guys do this?" Like because you kind of know about it enough that we're suspecting that you're managers yourselves. It's like, yes, we are. We come with a bunch of experience in that field as well. Um, but I wouldn't risk doing it necessarily without having partners around. So when we bought outside of our city limits, um, now be it 2.5 hours away or a 6 hour flight away, if you have people on the ground that can keep an eye on it for you, like for example, I've recently bought three buildings in Alberta, two of which are in Drumheller and one of which is in Red Deer with partners from the Alberta side of things. And I picked my partners well.
Mhm.
I I, I picked workhorses, people that if I could clone myself and throw out there, that would behave like me. Like so they're very hard workers. They're go go go. They have a good head on their shoulders. We get along. And pick your partners well. And there's no city you can't go to basically if you're able to select the people that you work with care.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that in this industry, when you're a real estate investor, it's all about managing risk as you move forward to make sure you're securing the goals of that investment. And you've just nailed a nugget there. Pick your partners well.
Yeah. Oh.
Um, so we're getting close to the end of the interview, Hermel, and I'd like to actually ask everybody about their why. I want to understand what are the goals you're trying to achieve? Why do you do what you do? How are you going to recognize when you've achieved it? And it surprises me all the time when I ask this question, but there's so many different motivators that keep people moving in this industry. I'm very interested to understand yours. Why do you do what you do?
So my why was centered around owning a bit more of my time and owning the owning the decisions in my time, occupancy as well. Like say working at the hospital, I was on a very tight schedule, and anything outside that schedule had to have specific permissions or time off or vacations or sick time, or you always had to have some way to book that time off. And we often, our time was leveraged to missing half of the birthday parties, missing half of the holidays, missing half of the Christmases, half of everything. And you work daytime, nighttime. Shift workers, you also leverage in that negotiation. Shift workers, it's a known fact, live about 3 to 5 years less than the average individual that doesn't work shift work. So we were giving away our life as well, not just our schedules, right? So my one big part of my why was I don't want to miss any other birthday parties of my daughters. I don't want to miss any more of the Christmases with my family because that time is my parents are getting older, my kids are growing, the time I have with them is getting infinitely shorter as I'm growing older and as time goes by. So I didn't want to negotiate that anymore. And I didn't want to negotiate, working till I'm 65 because my pension plan sucks. So I'm like, let's do something about that myself. Let's get myself in a position where I can free myself from that need of that pension plan to see where I can live comfortably after I decide to stop. In my mind, I had always envisioned working till I was 55 anyway. So I'm not necessarily getting into it to retire earlier, but at least retire with confidence at that age. So in my mind, I'm 46 now. I got 9 more years of hard grind in me. And at that point, I don't think I'll retire, but I think I'll get really picky at what I work on. So time for family, friends, and then be a bit more my own man, not having to ask permission for time off, basically.
I love it. I love it. Alrighty, well, that is the end of the interview. Hermel, if people want to reach out to you and get to know you on a one-on-one basis, how should they do that?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Hermel Godbout on Facebook. I'm a certified. You'll see my a little stamp of Facebook. If you find me on Facebook, there's just one certified Hermel Godbout out there, and then you can find me at or email me at djcpropertiesinfo@gmail.com, and then just send me a messenger, or even hit me up at 875-4795, regional code 506. Text me and just introduce yourselves, and that's how I typically get cold called or cold texted quite often. So I humor it when I get it, and that way we can start a conversation. I have no problems doing that.
Love it. Thanks very much, Hermel. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today. Stay
Thanks.
warm.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me, Steve. It's always a pleasure chatting. And let's do this again in 6 to 8 months and see what else happened.